And then we've got live on Facebook. So we are broadcasting publicly on my own timeline, live. Just preparing the live stream. So now just check my page.
Let me refresh. Okay. Oh. No,
that work?
Not yet. Let me refresh again.
It takes a little bit of time sometimes. Okay, it looks like we're live here. The live stream. So now just check my page.
Oh, there we are. So then you think I need to hit share?
Try share, and if that doesn't work, I'll hit. I can't hit comment. Weird.
Okay, wait. Hit share on a friend's profile. Is that what I'm doing? Do you think?
Yeah. Yes. Share. Would it be on your own? Share now with your friends. Yeah.
H. I don't know if it's going to show up because I'm in my count on your page.
Mm-hmm. And then are you doing the share now and then the parentheses friends?
There we go.
Did it work?
I think so.
Beautiful. Okay. Yay.
I think we're doing it.
I love it when mermaids and fairies can figure out the tech.
I know.
You know, it feels triumphant.
It does.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Okay.
We're on. Hello, my love.
Hello. Hello, friend.
I've got a gin seltzer cucumber situation here.
Oh, wow. That sounds lovely.
Cucumber just fixes the heat for me.
Yeah.
How about you?
I have a gin and tonic, just a little bit of tonic with some lime and some seltzer and some fat ass ice cubes. Because Heidi needs the ice.
Yes.
Oh my word.
You.
Yeah.
I feel you. Cheers.
Cha-ching.
I love that we're on the same page. It's like it is gin tonic weather.
It is. I'm finding, yeah, like I'm definitely more inclined to have certain drinks during warmer weather and certain drinks during colder weather. And I think I shared last week that I've made some gazpacho.
Oh, yes.
And that for me substitutes as Bloody Mary mix. I know. So then over the weekend, I made some, oh my word, avocados and guac. Some incredible guac. Like I just squeezed like 3 huge lemons into my vat of guac. Oh my God. I thought I went to heaven. Anyway, and I added that into my gazpacho / Bloody Mary mix.
Oh my goodness.
It's so delish. It's really, really yummy. Yeah.
These are like those almost like hydrating, nourishing summer kind of foods. And can I share with you the salad I made today?
Please.
It's one I discovered in LA. And I think it was actually at a Greek restaurant, which was even more surprising. But they diced, like if you took those Persian cucumbers, those little crisp, sweet ones, like diced them in quarters, like little diced avocado, right? Lime, basil, and a little bit of chopped red onions. So it's this like hydrating, nourishing, kind of like yummy because the basil just does something so amazing with the cucumber and avocado. And then I saved a few slices for my later drink of cucumber.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
And it literally feels like every cell in my body got more hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thank you of like, watering the insides. And it's really hot.
Right. And especially on a day, for me anyway, on a day where it's highly humid. Like the temperatures are up and it's super humid, and we just had a rain maybe an hour ago, a pretty
Yeah.
intense, fast. It came through really quickly,
Yeah.
but intense, and it just heightened the humidity. And I'm just like, I feel like wilted basil, you know?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think we're getting the squall now. I heard a little rumble of thunder, so I think it's reached us maybe
Hmm.
on the over the mountain. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you? I know we checked in earlier today, and still many things can unfold in a few
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. So I manifested a new refrigerator because my other refrigerator just had some issues and was having a lot of perspiration, and so it was just wasting a lot of energy. And so I was very fortunate enough to have the powers that be come and check it, and they were like, okay, it's legit. And so a new one was ordered. It was supposed to come this afternoon, and I was ready for it because I emptied my fridge.
Right.
I moved everything aside, like, so they'd have space and all that kind of stuff. And I get a phone call at around 3:30, quarter 4, and it's the woman from the company that's delivering it. And
Hmm.
she's like, they're stuck in Delaware County. We're going to have to postpone this for tomorrow morning. And I'm just like, what? What?
And delivery was like between 1 and 5, so you're
Between
getting
1 and
confused at
5.
4. Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like,
I feel you.
so, disappointment. But then I was just like, okay, now I have to rally and get everything back in my fridge and blah, blah, blah. So, anyway, they're coming tomorrow morning. So, that I'm excited about. I'm excited for it to happen and to be over so I can move forward. Um, but yeah, I heard from a friend that I've been, less corresponding with, and then we checked in, and it was good to hear from my friend. And I was like, okay, it sounds like, just even though it was a text, it sounded to me like my friend is in a better place than they were a couple months ago. So I'm feeling a little like, oh, I can breathe a little bit more, because I
Mhm.
really do, as you know, I really do care about my friends. I check in with my friends, and how they're feeling affects me, and how they're doing affects me, because I want my friends to be doing well. And in reality, not everyone is doing well all the time. That's just, life. So anyway, so it was sweet to kind of have a little bit of, check-in correspondence there. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of been, my afternoon sort of. Yeah.
I'm hearing like your care is really online for your friends and it matters to you,
It
you know?
really, yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And I um I sent a text last night to maybe 5 or 6 people, and I think you and I had some correspondence, and I knew we were talking today. And anyway, and so my one friend was just like, "Is everything okay?" Like, it was almost as if she couldn't wrap her head around this idea that these words were, because it was very heartfelt, it was very sincere. And she was just like, is everything okay? Are you okay? And blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, I'm really doing okay, and this is about
Yeah.
you. I want to make sure that you're doing okay. um but I realized that not everyone does that. It's just not, where everyone is at, and that's okay. And so I can understand how that might be a little concerning, or like, what's going on, if, you know um anyway. So yeah, I was just like, I'm checking in with my friends.
What did it feel like? I'm feeling really curious about this piece, right? Because this is the waters you swim in. It's the waters I swim in, of like showing care and appreciation and affection to our friends. Like we give a shit, it matters.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to get a response that was like, whoa, are you okay? Versus like a graciously receiving
Um,
Affect you or impact you at all?
it impacted me on some level, and I also could understand where my friend was coming from.
So both, like the
So,
and.
so both, right? And and I also, I was like, this is simply who I am. This is just who
Mm,
I am, you know.
yes. Mm,
Like this is Heidi with her big heart, just loving people, loving her friends, um, and so when I put words like that out there, it's not just because I have nothing else to do on a Tuesday evening,
which could be the case for some people who
which
kind of
could
reach
be the
out.
case for some people, you know. Because in my text, I even said, and if you're fine, that's great. And if you're not, I want to hear that too. Like I really do want to know how you're doing because I care and I love you. Like that's my truth right there. And so um I can understand how that might, I don't even know the word, Fidesta,
Catch
like
someone off guard, maybe.
yeah, catch them off guard, like what's happening here kind of thing, you know. Um and
Mm,
I'll do that every once in a while. Like I will go through my, because you keep your texts in a list or what, your
yeah.
text messages show up, and I will often go to the very bottom of the list, and it's someone that I haven't corresponded with, and I'll just say, hey, haven't heard, haven't heard from you in a while, just want to see how you're doing. Like just keep it kind of simple kind of thing, nothing like I don't ever have an attachment to it. I put it out there, and and I just find that people appreciate that. I think people really do like to be know that they're thought of,
Yes.
and it's not an everyday occurrence.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I also felt when you said it's just who I am, like I literally felt my spine get taller. Like that's just who I am. There's no agenda. There's no desperation. There's no like all the ways that people reach out that are a little bit sideways, I guess.
Hmm.
And no judgment. We sometimes reach out that way, but I like really felt my backbone when you were like, that's just who I am. Cause
Hmm.
I relate to that. It's like, I
Hmm.
want to nurture, and I'm giving not from my cup, but I'm giving from my overflow, right?
Yeah.
I'm giving from my saucer, as my friend Tony would say. So it's like maybe surprising to people when there's extra left and like we want to give, and maybe that's not where they're at.
Hmm.
But what a gift!
Hmm.
An absolute gift.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. And I think I notice it in the community I'm in at the relationship school, that everyone there wants to go deep. It's incredibly sensitive, caring, empathic, intuitive, um, tender hearted, like all of that. So it's kind of like there's this Blind Melon, the band, video where like there's this little bumblebee girl who's like super weird everywhere because she's like bumblebee tap dancing in the alleyway and at the park, and everyone's like, what is that? And then she opens these gates and there's all these other dancing bumblebees.
Mm.
And she's just like, like she finds her peeps. And
Hmm.
so I can't, I can't treasure it enough. It's like priceless that there's people like me who give a shit about their relationships, like you, who care and who are gonna continue to nurture and check in and love on and pour faith into and encourage the
Hmm.
people they care about. And I'm feeling a little bit of like a little collapse. I'm like, and that's not the norm. Why isn't that the norm? That's the world I want to build. That's the world I'm building.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm going to keep showing up as the person that I am, and model what I would like, I would like for people to show up for me, as I show up for them. But it doesn't have to be like I'm not doing it because of that. I'm doing it regardless.
Right.
And I do have a few people who show up for me in that way. And that's all. I'm always so touched by that, you know. Um, I had sent out, did I send you the dachshund and the duck?
Yes, I saw that right before our call.
As you know, I love a dachshund. I mean, they're my favorite dog. They're my favorite breed. Anyway, and with a baby duck, are you kidding me? Like, what can be cuter than that? So anyway, my one friend responded and she's, just said, sweet giggle, haha, that kind of thing. And then she said, how are you doing? And I was like, I really appreciate you asking me because it isn't every day when we're asked. Like, and this is a friend who, when I'm asked that question, I know that this person really wants to know how I'm doing. And that means everything to me. It means everything. Because I think oftentimes we walk through life and, people are like, how are you? And they just sort of use it as a nonchalant kind of greeting. And they expect the response to be, I'm fine, or I'm okay, or whatever.
Great. How are
Or
you?
great, I'm great. When the person's not really great, And so what would happen, I remember one time, and I don't, it doesn't even matter when it was or whatever, but I remember someone asked me that question. I wasn't doing well. Someone asked me that question, and and my response was, do you really want to know? Do you really want to know the response to that question? Or do you want me to just say I'm doing well or I'm doing great?
Oof.
And that literally stopped them in their tracks.
Yeah.
And I said to them, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not doing well. And they were like, it was like a deer caught in headlights. And I just thought, I'm not going to bullshit this. I'm not. I don't have it in me anymore to lie about how I'm doing,
To not be yourself, basically.
To not be myself. That takes a lot more energy than I even want to give to it,
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and what world would we be in, right? Like I can do that with my partner. I can do that with my close friends where he's like, how are you? And I'm like, well, I'm kind of threadbare, but I'm also hopeful. And I'm taking care of myself, right? Where it's not great and it's not good. And it's this place of transparency and also letting someone into my world. Right? It's like people want to be let in. I think people who are doing the kind of work we do.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels trusting and it feels like, oh, I feel a little bit closer to you because you let me in a little bit. And this just makes me think about like people's intimacy tolerance levels. Yes. Right. Because I know when I had a low intimacy tolerance many years ago, I craved this. And yet I found it really confronting and scary because I didn't have capacity to regulate as well as I do now. So it's like now it's like, bring me whatever I can hold it. But I had to build and grow that capacity to get the thing I said I wanted.
Right. Right.
So I just get curious if there's people like that out there watching going, oh my gosh, I want to have a conversation like this with my bestie. Like, what are the skills and tools I need to be able to hold space like this? Yeah.
To hold space for themselves and the person they're having conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have to tend to both simultaneously.
Yes.
I mean, I do. I don't want to say everyone does.
Yeah. I think that's probably true across the board. Yeah. For it to be successful.
And in order not to drop oneself to care, to overfunction and overcare for the other, and in order to not be like disconnected in the caring, right? I think for me, when I started at the relationship school, the first certification was called The Deeper Psychology of Intimate Relationships. And within that, we had to practice with each other. We had to learn all these tools. It's essentially an awakening of sorts to like the thing you wanted, but then all the roadblocks you've got in the way. So it's a journey. And I remember as I started to have these safe connections with people that had depth and like people really wanted to know where I was at, the relationships I had that didn't have that safe connection or depth felt less tolerable. I just became more sensitive to like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
Energy. And I would have a choice of like, let me try to bring that here and see if people are willing to play. And if they weren't, I slowly sort of stepped away. It wasn't like I threw away anybody, but it was like, maybe I won't spend every week hanging out with them. Maybe I'll see them twice a year, right? But it became like the model of like, I'm transcending, but I'm still going to include, but I can't do that full time. Because now that I've had the taste of depth and transparency and, I know authenticity gets thrown around a lot, but like true soul force from people, the bar has been raised so high that I like screwed myself in a really good way because I can't tolerate the other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like before I could tolerate an hour, and then it became like I can tolerate 30 minutes. And then it was like I can tolerate 10. And now I'm like twitchy in 2. And it's like, okay, that's probably good data. Like,
Same.
To not question the sensitivity.
Right.
You're relating.
100%. Yeah. And it's interesting to me that your first cap was an hour, and then it was 30 minutes, and then it was 10, and then it was 2. And I'm just like, I think I was always at about 2 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was over tolerant for sure.
Yeah. And I will say, there are sometimes I work hard to stretch to 30. I don't know that I don't know how, if I have it in me that I could stretch to an hour. That would be, it's almost unfathomable to me to think that I could do an hour of, are we going to call it small talk? Whatever we want to call it. Like, I don't even know what that is, Yeah, I'm not good at it. I don't, it's almost like a foreign language to me. Because it's not something that I have the capacity for.
Yeah.
It just isn't. Um and I know that is one of the reasons that I sit in silence a lot. I sit in silence and I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with it and I'm comfortable. And what I find is that not all the time, but I will often see people kind of like, I can sense their uncomfortability, if that's a word, around my silence. And I'm just like, and I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to explain myself. I'm simply being who I am. And it doesn't have to be that hard. Like, it's not hard to understand that. But I think oftentimes people are really uncomfortable with silence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people.
I think you're getting better.
I'm doing my best, but like, it's one of those things where I start to think, again, it's an intimacy tolerance piece. In coaching, it's like there's one of the students said something so great at the early onset of the program. And she said, I'm really finding that silence is a great co-facilitator as a coach to like leave space. And I tend to get nervous in silence and kind of go into like Barbara Walters mode and start asking more questions.
Oh.
So I've had to work with that of like, oh, this is intimacy. Silence is intimacy. It's trusting. it's surrendering. I don't like that word. It's yielding to like the spaciousness that doesn't need to be filled, and all of that makes me tense a little bit, less than it used to. But it's an interesting place because there's a little bit of, for whatever reason, like, oh, there's less control in silence. That's the story I'm making up.
Mm,
I ask
interesting.
questions and I direct it, and I'm routing the conversation. There's more control there.
That's so fascinating because I think there's more control in silence.
Wow. I'm feeling curious about that. Can you tell me a
So,
little more?
yeah, I'm happy to share a little bit more. So, one of the things that I say to many of the students that I work with, because they are filling in the gap, they're filling in silence. And a lot of times when a student is doing that, it's because they're nervous and they don't like, it's uncomfortable. And I get that, right? And they will often like they will ask the question, and then actually, I can't even take a breath to respond. And they're already giving me options of what my answer should be. And I'm like, hold on, Nellie. Like, let's take a step back because options are only confusing. Because what if my answer is not one of the options?
Like the menu doesn't have your.
If the menu doesn't have my selection on it, then I'm screwed. You're screwed. Like, we're not going to get the information that you need for my chart. So anyway, so in feedback, I often, and I can't tell you how many times I've used this, and you've seen me do my work too. Silence is golden. Silence is, it's there. You cannot put a dollar, you can't put a dollar, you can't put a money mark on it. You can't. It is so precious and important because what I find is that in the silence are often answers. If we listen, because as you know, in my work, I have to be listening. I'm the conduit. So I have to be listening for the information to come through, and so that I can articulate in a way that the person in front of me is getting the information that they're looking for. So as far as like, that's what I mean about the power being in the silence, because oftentimes the answer is in the silence. And sometimes, even if we're not looking for an answer, most of us need to take a breath. Most of us need to take a breath and slow down, like intentionally slow down and check ourselves. And so, the other thing that I notice too when I'm working with my students is that, and these are the ones that tend to not take a breath. I'm like, and I'm feeling lightheaded for them, right? Because I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so they off many of them that don't take a breath talk very fast and will ask a question, wait for the response, ask like just right. And I mean, there are a couple things that happen, and the one is that I don't feel like a person.
Mm.
I simply feel like I'm just I'm like a robot to answer questions for you because there's nothing personal in our exchange.
Mhm.
You're asking me, do I have fever? Do I have chills? Do I have sweats? Do I have diabetes? I mean, am I on medication? Like, just, which is important information, but so is, how are you doing? Um, is there anything you wanted to add to your response? Do you have any question? Do you have a question about my question? There are a lot of ways to build that gap, to build that bridge, but I think a lot of times, because we are so busy, and I realize I'm generalizing, but in this case, the students, they're trying to gather as much information as they can, and they're not thinking about the human connection. And as far as you and I go, our work is about building human connection. And
Yeah.
so I would be curious to know, like, I do get how uncomfortable it is, and it's a muscle.
Yeah.
It's a muscle that has to be exercised over and over. And so I'm curious to know if you, the next time you had an opportunity where you're feeling, oh my gosh, I've got to fill space or whatever, and if you stopped yourself, what you might become aware of
Mhm.
in the silence, and what you might hear that you would not have heard if you were still talking.
Yeah. Oh, I love that invitation. Thank you. It
Yeah.
feels powerful. It feels potent. Um, and you were helping me think about, I did this workshop with the lady who would ask questions and not really leave much room. And I almost felt not included. Right. It's like like I don't want to elbow in with people. And so if they take up all the space, I'm like, I'm not trying to assert myself heavily. And the other piece, like the machination of like the asking, the asking, the asking that isn't presenced to
Right.
the heart and the soul and the human. And I can say for me, when I get into that mode, it's because I have gotten a little anxious and unanchored, and then I'm a little neck up. And it's sort of I call it my Barbara Walters mode, which is like asking the same question 4 different ways to fill the space.
Mhm.
And as I've practiced, what's it like for you to tell me that right now? And then just like duct tape, right? Like having to
Mhm.
mentally think, sit on your hands, like let this be for someone,
Right.
particularly in coaching. Instead of being like, do they understand that? Like, just it's trust. It's trust as much as it's intimacy
Yeah.
for me. Do they get it? Are they okay? Should I caretake? Do I ask it a different way? And it's like, dude, just like let it hang out there. Because some of my clients are such great teachers for me. They're incredibly comfortable with the
Mm.
silence, taking a minute or two, right? So they put up a mirror of where like my sphincter gets tight on like they're actually better at it than I am, and it serves them. Now I don't even remember the question, but I know that I could continue to edge stretch there.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
do it well on my own. So
Mhm.
that's intriguing to me. Like in the mornings, like 7 to 9 a.m. is like my theta liminal, intuitive, creative. People come into my mind's eye that I'm like, oh, I should check in on them or get this great idea for the coaching realm or something creative to a poem or something. So I know it's power solo. I think I have a harder time regulating with another person
Mm.
sometimes. So that's my edge to grow.
Okay. So let's see. There's one person watching. I
Is it
have the
us?
eyeball. Huh?
Is it us?
I don't know. Like that's what I was wondering. I'm like, is that us? And the thing about the eyeball is that we don't ever really know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I mean if it's one eyeball, we wouldn't know if it's you and I or if it's someone else. Anyway, if anyone's watching and wants to say hello, hello, put that in the comments. We invite you to participate in whatever way you want, or if you simply want to watch and listen, that's okay too. Um, but we're glad you're here. We're really glad that you're here. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, what do you have going on so we have a long weekend coming up. Are you doing anything interesting, exciting, or fun? Or all three?
Well, I had, the graduation event for 3 days last week, and then next weekend is Richard and I's 3-year anniversary of getting back together. So we're
Oh,
we're going camping. which we had planned a year ago when camping was the only option.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm like, I was saying to him yesterday, I'm like, yeah, I remember we booked this a year ago and that was the only thing we could do. And I kind of also want something bougie
Yeah.
and a little bit more like, you know, a dinner or something ease filled because camping's got a lot of doing.
Yes, it does.
It's like it's packing half the house to go somewhere and
Right.
unpack half the house to then pack the house back in 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
So I never feel fully rested.
Mm-hmm.
But this weekend, I think for me is a little bit of just a recalibration. You know, Richard's going on Saturday, like a 4-hour drive to his mentor to deliver a sword he's created for his mentor's wife.
A sword?
A sword, like a wooden Tai Chi sword.
Oh, wow.
They do the form with the sword, right? So it's like a whole other advanced level.
Wow.
Which means, and then he's got to drive back 4 hours. So in a way, I have Saturday
Yeah.
to just be goofy me. And then Sunday, I think we're going to see an outdoor concert by a band called the Sex Mob, which is like a really fun, lively jazz band. And I will say on a side note, I really hated jazz for a couple of years because my ex was a jazz drummer. And I couldn't tolerate like any jazz for a while after that breakup. And particularly cerebral jazz, that was just like, what's happening? As a rock musician, I was like, verse, chorus, guitar solo, bridge, out. Like, what is this? So to find jazz we both like is very healing.
Oh, good.
And then Monday, I think just being chill, but nothing too big. We thought about making his trip up into a trip, like an Airbnb 3-day thing. And it wasn't easy to find anything like amazing. And I thought, man, I already had an event. We've got a trip. Like, I'm actually feeling good about nesting this weekend while everyone else is partying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think people are going to be on the road and maybe going to the beach or the mountains or whatever. It's the first unofficial weekend of the summer.
Getting their boats and jet skis
Yes,
and all that stuff.
all of it.
What about you? Is there anything you're excited to
Yeah,
enjoy?
I am. So I'm doing a 3-day personal retreat with my friend. And we today's Wednesday, right? So yesterday we met and we talked about what we would, what we wanted to do and create and whatnot. And um, so I think I've talked to you about the 300 list, the manifesting list. So I haven't really visited my list in a while, and I don't think she has either. So we're going to work on our list and cross off things that have come to fruition. And so it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we'll spend some time on Saturday, Sunday, Monday working on our manifestation lists and then doing some deep dive meditation and conversation and that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to it. And then the temperature's supposed to drop to like 71 again. We have today and tomorrow today and tomorrow like this kind of weather. And then I think Friday through next Monday or Tuesday it's supposed to be relatively. I know.
That's great. So I won't shave my head.
Don't shave your head. No, don't do that.
That's wonderful. Can I ask you a question about your sort of your retreat?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important for people because maybe not everyone can get somewhere, right? It's like not everyone's going to be able to get to Bermuda or get away for this weekend, even locally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how did the retreat come to be between you and your friend? How did this become a way to replenish, recalibrate?
So we meet twice a week regularly
Mhm.
to do witness meditation. And we've been doing this for almost 2 years, maybe a little bit longer, since 2019, which I can't believe. In any event, and so I think like back in January, I don't remember which one of us said we were just feeling the want and need and desire
Mhm.
to deepen
Mhm.
our relationship. And so, and meditation has done that. And so, and I don't know if we had a theme in January, but we did a 5 day retreat where we did no work and we did no work and so I did things like I took a walk if it was nice. I did a lot of cooking and some baking and that kind of thing. And then we would come together once a day to discuss and to talk. And I don't remember if we were reading anything at the time. And then is this our third or fourth one? But anyway, the last time we did one, which was in April, we read the Four Agreements
Nice.
together.
Whoa.
And we used that as our connection.
Mhm.
And so we had a lot of really deep and yummy discussion and conversations around the Four Agreements. And that was a 3 or 4 day retreat. And we also, was that the one where we met with, there's a woman who does angel readings. She's a, she's a connector. She communicates, and it's either that one or the one before. But anyway, so at one point we have met with this woman together and had a session with her, which was really rich. Um, and then this one. So we are working on making we really want to do it every month. And sometimes it gets to be a little bit longer than a month because last time I think was at the beginning of April and now it's the end of May. So it's a little bit longer than a month. It's more like 7 weeks, but that's
Mhm.
fine. So, but because we really are committed to the meditation and richening, is that a word, richening?
It is now.
Deepening, deepening our friendship. Um, it's been a game changer for
Mhm.
us. Yeah, it's been really wonderful.
Mm.
A gift that we have given to ourselves and to each other. And I, yeah, and interestingly enough, when we have these, like we talked about it yesterday, we were like, okay, so what is going to be like? What's our theme? And within like 15 seconds, we were like, okay, let's do this. And so it's interesting how the synchronicities so easily and quickly line up
Mhm.
and we're on the same page. And even if we weren't, we would still discuss it anyway and maybe make, if we did had two different ideas, have them come together. But it's been really a sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hearing like the co-creation, the collaboration energy around even deciding what it's going to look like each time.
Yeah.
And I asked because I feel like a lot of people know what a retreat looks like solo or curated by, you go to a group retreat or something. But this idea of choosing a trusted friend, co-creating, collaborating, putting something together that is a bit more customized and intuitive for
Yeah.
where you're both at, and then being your accountability partners together, that feels fresh to me, that feels new to me in a lot of ways, or at least newer than like I'm going to take a retreat for 4 days and just be off the grid and
Mm,
go inward solo, which I think a lot of
mm,
people know how to do. But this feels like an invitation to me and to a lot of like to kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but it feels a little bit more revolutionary to hold, to be held
mhm.
by a friend that way and to deepen with a friend that way. And I'm curious, like, what does it provide for you to do it that way versus a solo retreat?
Um, well, we're both committed to it.
Mhm.
And so, because I have committed myself to do it and she's committed herself to do it, we're both going to show up.
Yeah.
Because I could very easily put it on my calendar and not show up for myself. But because my friend, we made this agreement, we're holding each other and ourselves accountable to show up for each other. And then the deepening of the friendship, and the things that we learn from each other. And I also really believe that between the two of us, like, I'm aware that I have a pretty high emotional intelligence, like my EQ is pretty high, and so is hers. And so it's, I don't even know how to put this into words, but it's fascinating to me how when we have a conversation back and forth, how easily and I want to say uh it feels like it's without a lot of effort. It feels effortless to really click in with each other. And I can say something that maybe the average person might not understand necessarily, and I might have to explain to them, and she just gets it. And it's this very fluid, back and forth, effortless conversation. Worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I'm getting like attunement. Like there's such attunement between you two, and presence, and what's the word beyond attunement? It's like that place where you're almost riding the same wavelength. So then it's ease filled because of that as well. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm floored by this again, because I think of retreats as solo or like something curated. You do in a group, and the idea of just choosing your person and creating something that fits does feel new to me. And really juicy.
Thanks. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I was curious before, but I really wanted to unpack a little bit of that because I think it'll serve people.
Yeah.
And it also, again, as my intimacy threshold gets better, it's like, oh my God, who would I trust to do that with? Like,
right.
That's a big step if it's never been done, right?
Yeah, it is.
Who would I want to see 3 days in a row? I mean,
I love that honesty. I love that.
Who the hell would I want to see 3 days in a row anyway? And then who would I trust to hold that? And who do I think would be accountable? And who do I gel with that would get it? And it really kind of creates an interesting sifting process.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The exercise of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Look at the time.
I know.
I can't even.
I know. Do you have your chat pack?
Are we ready for chat pack, people? Okay, so I always choose like 7 or 8 and then I pick one. All right. I love this question. Okay. What is the quaintest small town you've ever visited?
Quaintest. Do love that word.
I know.
I'm going to go first thought, best thought, even though I can think of multiple places I thought were charming. I would have to say, as weird as it sounds, probably Salem, Massachusetts. I had gone the week of Halloween in my goth days. And about 300,000 or 400,000 people flock there for multiple reasons at that point. What took me by surprise was, obviously it's the place of the Salem witch trials and all that stuff, but the architecture, the way glass had to be made thick and in these diamonds, and the gables of the windows, and we'd walk into these homes, that were historical from the Salem witch trials, and like you'd see the pots and pans hanging over the fireplace, and what looked like a pretty rustic picnic table in the kitchen, and just this world that felt like, I don't know, paused in time,
Hmm.
I suppose. Um, and as an empath, a certain energy of like, man, people were not ready for the sovereign, sensitive, different than them people. Um, I think a second closest might be Williamsburg, Virginia, but that was a bit more curated. Like it
Mhm.
was meant to be like this old towny thing. Salem felt rich. It had gravity, and it still had an energy of not what happened, but like a triumph spirit of people still choosing their sovereignty. That really stuck with me.
Mm.
And because it was really cold by October for some reason, they had Cinnabons in a cup that then they poured hot apple compote on top
Oh
of.
my gosh.
So, like inside apple pie filling
Yes.
vibes with a little bit of that apple cider juice
Ah.
on top of a hot Cinnabon. And you were like, I mean, now I would probably have to take a 4-hour nap, but like at 18, it was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So
Mm. That's a lovely memory. Yeah.
what about you? What's the quaintest small town that you've experienced?
Um. hmm. So as I lived in Rome for 6 months. Yeah. And Rome has all of these wonderful little neat niches, little nooks and crannies. And I don't know if there might be literally 5 streets or roads that are straight. Everything else is just kind of like this. You can really get lost pretty easily. But if you're willing to kind of go with the flow,
Mhm.
I was in awe. Like almost every corner I turned or building I went around, or I was just like, I can't believe that I came upon this and I came upon this. Anyway, the neighborhood that I lived in was called Trastevere, and it had the town's, I mean, the square, the piazza that was in my neighborhood had a market maybe a half a block, like this really nice big market about a half a block down, and all these lovely little coffee shops and bakeries and this huge church in the square. And oh my gosh, I just like I long to go back. I really really long to go back. um yeah, Rome was full of that kind of thing, but I really loved my neighborhood,
Yeah.
and it was known as the kind of like the hippie or the gypsy neighborhood, if you will. And so there were a lot of street people, which was actually kind of had its own charm, if you can imagine. I mean,
Of
I
course.
know when I say that to the people, they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, but really, like, even the street people that I would see day in and day out, and would often, you know, if I had a couple of coins, I would, give them a couple coins, but I would pass them several times a day, so they just became part of part of what I saw and a charm. And what was interesting is like I remember one gentleman, and I remember he wasn't where there was one day, 2 days, 3 days where he wasn't normally sitting in his normal spot. And I remember I was growing concerned because I didn't, he didn't speak English. I didn't speak Italian really. And we our communication and relationship was really just with our eyes and, nodding and that kind of thing. And I remember thinking, gosh, I wonder. And then he ended up showing up like in another spot or whatever. And I was like, and I remember feeling it like breathing a sigh of relief. It was really kind of fat. And I was like, gosh, I never really
Mm.
thought that I would get attached to someone, but it was very sweet. But anyway, I feel like I digressed. But yeah, that was, Rome is really quite the city.
You and me, we're calling in Italy.
We are calling Italy. We
I'm
are
ready.
calling it
I'm
in.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that
Anyway,
question.
yeah, thank you. And thank you all for joining us. Whoever is watching or is going to watch later, give us a shout out and we will see you next week. This is Cocktails and Pajamas.